だいたいお前の働きはバイト以下だぞ。
Man, good thing this episode didn't come out when Twitter was a thing, or else we might have gotten a scene of this dude starting up a cancel campaign. But then again, when would a PPG property ever make such overt and dated references to social media? Yeah, more on that in just a bit. We got another recap of the first episode, which pretty much gave away the fact that we were going to get the introduction of yet another new monster of the week, this time at a beauty salon. And I swear, it's only a coincidence I'm doing this review right after I got a haircut last week. Though, I can't deny I do like it when things work out like this sometimes. After a bit of a pointless red herring, we were introduced to this artiste and his affinity for party hat hair.
汚れも落ちてないわね。はい、全部やり直し。
He's such a bitch.
Obviously, this apprentice beautician named Michelle was a pretentious a-hole who tried to act like he was the hottest thing even though he had absolutely no aptitude in his field of work, and yet was still expecting to get paid and praised while doing almost no work. So pretty much 90% of the entertainment industry right now. And as if we didn't have enough reason to find this guy total putz, he retreated to the bathroom after getting some very justified criticism to listen to his wind-up teddy bear and his pre-recorded messages to himself. From there, the black light infected him and Tay Ruxpin, and surprisingly gave us a completely original villain for this show named...
No. 私の名前 Great Michelle.
I mean, to be fair, his pretentiousness is justified. And of course, Warp here gained mind control as his superpower. Even though nowadays, you don't really need real followers to get people into an ill-conceived trend. Yes, unfortunately, this episode was kind of ahead of its time in that regard, with people buying into an awful fad that wasn't worth their time and certainly not their money. Then again, Japan has always been trying to chase whatever seems trendy because of their interconnected culture. And whatever you might think about some of these fads, you have to admit they have way too many of them, and not all of it is going to appeal to everyone, including Michelle's weird hairstyle that might be based off of a real thing, I'm not sure, but I do know this punk rock look was a thing. Point is, as the world has become more interconnected, I think people have developed a bit of a hive mind mentality for these trends, started by people who just expect us to follow them. Thankfully, these tendencies do seem to be dying down, but the damage has already been done to stuff like, as I said, our entertainment industry. So yeah, since I'm covering this show, I guess I may as well throw in my 2 cents about these alleged, though likely legit script leaks of the CW's live-action Powerpuff remake. Frankly, there's a lot about this script that I don't want to have to talk about, in particular the girls' late-night activities, shall we say. So instead, let's just focus on the scenes where the writers try to make the girls modern and trendy. Of particular note was a scene where they just decide to list off all of the social media platforms Blossom was on because don't you fellow kids have all of these? And as if that wasn't bad enough, we then got some brilliant lines from her sisters like, "Coming back here is triggering for her," and "Why? Cause she's the one who killed Mojo. I mean, MoveOn.org.
Who says that?
Okay, so let's just ignore that bit of them offing Mojo, who apparently in this continuity is not an evil monkey, but rather Utonium's human assistant, who he betrayed, so the professor is Dick, in more ways than one. And instead, let's just focus on that dialogue that's trying so hard to be relatable and failing miserably. I think something that both of the American PPG remakes need to realize is that the real world is not all social media. For most normal people, they don't spend most of their time looking up the latest hashtags or posting 1,001 pictures on their Instagram. And I know that's weird kind from a YouTuber, but if you see me on my other social media platforms, then you'll know I seldom post anything because frankly, I would much rather use that time to spend with my family or build model kits. I'm still an otaku, okay? Another brilliant bit from this pilot included a scene where the girls explain how they sold the rights to their story, turning it into a cartoon, which of course they downplayed, and even accused them of whitewashing them. So, like, are you trying to say Craig was a racist? I don't even really get it. I mean, look, whatever sort of trend or movement somebody follows, that's their own prerogative, and I will certainly never try to take that away from them. But at the same time, you can't force people to try and accept this stuff. If anything, it'll more likely lead to them rejecting these concepts, and in turn, the show itself, which is exactly what happened to these no-budget cosplayers. Likely due to it not being received well with test audiences, it seems like this show has gone all the way back to the drawing board. From there, we can only hope it goes straight into the trash bin. I'll talk more about this during the closing thoughts, but let's get back to the show with the millennial clown who's meant to be made fun of. In a nice bit, Utonium and Ken actually took a more proactive approach in supporting the girls by going out and looking for potential monsters. It's certainly a better interpretation to make him a deadbeat in either one of the other reboots. Sorry, just focus on the good reboot for now. I also do appreciate the subtle bit of continuity here, as while it was never outright stated, it has been previously established that Peach can't sniff out monsters if their scent is masked by any stronger smells. In this case, Michelle was surrounded by a salon full of hair products. However, Peach was still able to pick up trace scents of him, leading them to the salon. And unsurprisingly, they were thrown out by the brainwashed masses, though Ken's words certainly didn't help matters.
あなたたち全員モンスターみたいですね。変な髪型してるし。
Again, thank God the series came out before the onset of social media. Ultimately, they couldn't really do anything as they had no concrete evidence of Michelle's wrongdoing, and even then, the only damage he was doing was the wallets of a bunch of Karens, so yeah, no big loss really. He did become an actual threat after an attack by Mojo led to a newscaster calling the girls charismatic heroines. Yeah, how dare they overshadow your completely manufactured charisma? That term could apply to most of Hollywood, couldn't it? Thus, after they defeated Mojo in their usual quick fashion, Michelle arrived to reclaim his title of the world's most charismatic by fighting the girls, and oh boy, look at that design. He looks like he was made from the scraps of Edward Scissorhands, Invader Zim, and the Canadians from South Park. I mean, in hindsight, he does kind of foreshadow the big bad responsible for the black light, but I think the more probable reason behind this design was in order to match up with this episode's animation. Yeah, I haven't really brought it up, but wow, the animation here is pretty bad. Granted, animation has never really been this show's strong suit, and to their credit, they do make the most of this bad animation by making these hairstyles look even worse. Still, it is easy to tell when the show switches to its stock animations. Anyway, they managed to KO Michelle with a rather light tap from Kaoru's hammer. The actual wielder of it almost got one of his haircuts. Funny, I thought bad haircuts were Blossom's thing. With that, they managed to reverse Michelle's transformation, which also undid the brainwashing. This led to the girls trying to calm down an understandably angry mob of soccer moms, with Michelle not far behind. As a result, he got some much-deserved karma, but also ended up taking out his trigger item again. Fortunately, the girls had a countermeasure for his brainwashing with some really nice-looking shades. Did he just make a re? Man, this episode really was ahead of the curve when it came to the modern Twitter crowd. Cornered, Michelle pulled up a pretty clever trick of using some self-hypnosis on himself with a mirror. And of course, since this is a toy property,
Make my monster grow!
and thankfully, at least for this last fight, the animation looked a lot better than the rest of the episode. In the end, they defeated him with help from some industrial-grade hair gel that stopped him in his tracks.
でも変だな。セリフまでスローになることはないだろ。
That one line alone was better than the entirety of the CW scripts. With that, they again took him out with some really weak-looking attacks, and also managed to prevent him from ever transforming again. Yeah, while they couldn't do anything about trigger items like Sapphire to Himiko or Makeup to Sakurako, they could modify Michelle's teddy bear.
こらメソメソしないでしっかりやんなさい。見て努力しなさ
That thing needs to be put into mass production now. With that, the episode ended with him being forced to work for free to pay for his damages, and Mojo just seemingly drowning. Okay. I think if I had reviewed this episode when it originally came out, I probably would have said it was just an okay episode with some bad animation, but at least a fairly interesting original villain for this series. Now though, it's still badly animated, but at the same time, it feels surprisingly relevant, especially due to recent events in this franchise. For an original one-off villain, Michelle was not only kind of unique, but also reflected an over-entitled mindset that has unfortunately become a little commonplace these days. And on top of that, the concept of how people can easily be brainwashed into following an ill-conceived trend that will more than likely lead to financial ruin, and you get a surprisingly timeless tale. The fact that those CW scripts have suffered a similar downfall as Michelle makes this all the more ironic. While I don't think there's any direct parallels between this episode and the OG, it does actually kind of remind me of a different Cartoon Network show, Ed, Edd n Eddy. Specifically, the It's Way Ed episode, where everyone tried to hop onto the latest fad no matter how ridiculous it was. Though in the case of this show, while there was at least some reasonable appeal to the fads the Eds came up with, Michelle's haircuts were very niche in that they mostly just appealed to him. As a result, we got an obnoxious, but also rightfully hateable antagonist who at least works as a one-off villain. I'm not sure if I would want to see him as a recurring villain. And while this self-entitled blowhard is not uncommon in fiction, it has unfortunately become somewhat the norm in real life. Many things these days, especially our entertainment, seems to be tailor-made to what seems trendy on social media rather than, real-world appeal. And when it fails to reach an audience, they'll just try to brainwash or force people into accepting it. Ironically, this has been quite the case for the PPG franchise, as while I do view the show as a bit of a hidden gem that just wasn't given enough of a chance, these other two shows, yeah. Again, aside from certain disagreeable elements that I'd rather not see in a reboot of a kids show, trying to appeal to what you view as trendy is often not going to work, especially if you haven't refined your skills. You actually have to work to become better, be it in writing or hair. Thus, while I won't pretend like this episode is an instant classic or anything, as the animation is definitely nothing to write home about, its morals have become far more timeless than I think even the original writers may have expected. Actually work towards your goals and don't expect automatic acceptance, and don't just believe in whatever's trending, because a fad can quickly fade and you'll just end up wearing a figurative and sometimes literal clown hat. Jeez, I really am starting to turn into the old man who yells at clouds, aren't I? Still, I hope you guys enjoyed this slightly longer Wednesday review. Be sure to check out all of my future reviews for mostly magical girl stuff. Don't worry, I won't go into full-on rants like this all the time. And until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and, oh, another Marvel movie is trending. I'm going back to my day job.